Dota 2 fans, and welcome to another edition of SLTV Star Ladder Pro Series Season 11. This is the playoffs. I am Maurice, please, your resident Canadian Dota 2 caster. With me is the lovely and talented Grandis V. We are HeflaTV. Grandis, what's the forecast on this one?
Who knows? Because he have quite an interesting lineup mashed together of players from here and there throughout the scene. His and HWA, the only official players on their team. So honestly, I have no idea. Moscow 5 International definitely going with the more stable group of 5 players, and they're always fun to watch. Green every once in a while pulling out that Tusk, and they do have a lot of fun heroes that they play. Yeah,
always nice to see PGG with a little bit of salt. Slander's pretty good in the offlane. I've seen him with some pretty crazy plays. HEHE for a moment had Yapsor standing in for them, who has been standing in a lot for BBC and also plays on 4 bunnies and 1 turtle, but they replaced him with Illusionist, so a little less familiar with him. But anyways, let's hop into the draft. Jakiro going to be the first ban from M5, so just a strong hero for obvious reasons. And Juggernaut, someone that has really fallen into favor in the last meta after the buffs to him. So interesting to see him banned out and become first ban, first pick phase material.
All it really takes is a couple of buffs, and for Juggernaut, the rescaling to the crit, making it a real value point. The 20% 200 damage crit, or 200% damage crit, is pretty ridiculous. And then they fixed one of his major problems, which was his laning stage. With the 6 extra agility, we're going to see the Tusk unfortunately banned out in the first stage, but that'll open up Moscow 5 to first pick the IO.
Yeah, so Screen, definitely one of his signature heroes is that Tusk, but we will see the IO picked up here from M5. Will be interesting to see what they couple it with, and they go right for the Rock Missile. Tiny going to be coupled with the IO. Very actually popular just in the last couple of days. We saw it in D2L, we saw it in the DAC qualifiers with both Cloud9 and Fire picking it up against one another, but HEHE going to respond with the Thunder God and the Clockwork. What do you make of this Clockwork pick? It's not a hero I've really seen feast too often in the recent meta.
Yeah, honestly, I think it could have been something else, even though it is a really nice combination of that global ganking pressure with Hookshot and the Thunder God's Wrath. Yeah. I think you could have left that till later on in the draft. Maybe pick up another one of your supports.
Yeah, certainly so. I feel like he would have fell through to a later pick, but regardless, we will see the Void ban come out here from HEHE, and AA Slark are going to be banned out. So as you touched upon, that global presence with the Zeus and the Clockwork, they're going to mitigate the possibility for that by taking away the Ice Blast. Also a very good roaming ganker, and position 1 in the Slark with the Shadow Dance passive, allowing him to move pretty much freely across the map.
Yeah, right now he do have that sort of flavor of that global presence. They're lacking a decent amount of lockdown, but they have good setup. If they want to go for something like an Invoker, I definitely think that wouldn't go amiss, unless that is a mid-Zeus, which it very well could be.
I do worry for this IO to a certain extent. If it is a farming Zeus, as you mentioned, he'll be able to blow him up fairly quickly with pretty much a Lightning Bolt and the Thunder God's Wrath. Also, they'll be able to get vision on this relocating combo as they need to, as long as they keep their Thunder God's Wrath in tow. And they're going to continue with the theme of the global presence here, and they're going to pick up the Spirit Cow. So definitely a hero that we see do either very well or very poorly. So it'll be interesting to see what role this Spirit Breaker plays in this one. But either way, there's going to be some early pressure for sure coming the way of Moscow 5.
Yeah, I'm kind of feeling the support position for Spirit Breaker this game around, with the Clockwork towards the off lane, just looking for those early roams with the charges in the early stage of the game, trying to get kills, in particular on like the IO or onto the mid lane, if they can actually find an angle for it. As you said, Spirit Breaker is kind of one of those volatile heroes. When he works wonderfully, and when he doesn't work, he kind of falls flat on his face. Spirit Breaker without any items really does fall very heavily off.
Yeah, we could see the off-lane Spirit Breaker, but with the Clockwork pickup, generally you would expect it to be in the 4, as you mentioned. So we'll see what direction Moscow 5 take this draft in. Perhaps they're going to want to solidify their lanes a little more. We probably expect a dual lane mid with this tiny IO combo. They could always go for a defensive try +1 and look for an actual solid dominating mid laner, but generally you expect that dual lane. So they are going to have to shore up the other lanes, as they will only have 2 in the safe lane, and they will be susceptible to those charges of darkness from the Spirit Breaker. So it'll be interesting to see what they pick up here, if they pick up a strong support or go right in for the core.
Yeah, right now Moscow 5, they're going to be building their entire lineup around this tiny IO, and that's pretty much what they've said in this draft already. There's really not anything else that they need to shore up. The Vengeful Spirit's going to be a really solid support pickup for them, and I'm honestly surprised that it hasn't been picked up, but they are going to go all in for this global ganking strategy, hookshot, charge, and now a haunt reality, and they can be everywhere at once.
Yeah, it could even be a support Zeus at this point. They could pick up something like the Nature's Prophet and put him in a mid lane role or something along those lines. But yeah, pretty crazy how all in. They really don't have a plan B here. I mean, Spectre is always considered somewhat of an insurance policy with her ability to scale into that late game. But it looks like Moscow 5 going to pick up some global presence of their own with the Sunstrike available from this Invoker if he opts for that Quas Exort build. And he'll be able to help out with the relocate ganks with the Tiny IO. Vengeful Spirit, pretty good defensively against the Spirit Breaker charge, does have the swap out eventually, also has the magic missile to deal with that, and will help with the Roshan presence if as well as I should say the Forged Spirits if they end up going Quas Exort here. So I do like the well-roundedness of Moscow 5's lineup, but we can obviously see how HEHE's lineup can be extremely successful towards the mid game if they hit their stride.
For sure. As far as the last bans are concerned, we're going to see the Nature's Prophet taken out by Moscow 5. Honestly, not sure if that really would have fit into their lineup unless they go incredibly greedy, but I suppose they are just respecting that global ganking presence. And for HEHE, they'll take out the Broodmother.
Yeah, I mean, Nature's Prophet would have been a kind of cheese pick. It also forces you to put the Zeus into a support role. I'm not a big fan of a Zeus who's not farming, just so much like a Quap. I don't like either of those heroes in a non-farming role, but either way, they probably will end up picking up a support here. Spirit Breaker is not the best support. I mean, he does have that ganking ability, but he can't really translate into offering your team much else, so you definitely would need a hard 5 here to help out with their team. Perhaps they go for something like a Disruptor against the IO Tiny combo. That's yet to be banned out here, so I think that would fit fairly well with their lineup. Isn't the best 5 though. They could look for something maybe like a Rubik or a Witch Doctor here, but it'll be interesting. They'll eat into their reserve time a bit and think this one over, so hopefully they don't go too greedy for their sake.
Yeah, there really isn't much of a risk for using through all of this reserve time to think about this last pickup for them. I think the Disruptor, as you mentioned earlier on, would fit pretty nicely. Honestly, just anything with some sort of lockdown. A nice stun would fit very nicely with them.
Yeah, perhaps they opt for something like a Lion or something with a little more disable, as you mentioned. Also, Finger of Death, pretty darn good against the IO as well. They'll have quite a bit of burst with the Zeus already, and even sticking the Haunt Illusion on the IO to keep vision on him will be pretty darn useful. So we'll see what HEHE rounds out the lineup with here. What are you expecting from Moscow 5 preemptively before this pick?
For Moscow 5, it looks like they're lacking an offlaner. They have a decent amount of control and damage throughout all these 4 first picks, so they do have a lot of flexibility with whatever they really want to go for. I don't think you can go wrong with the likes of Centaur War Runner or something along that ideology. Just something to get the initiation in. Bat Rider actually hasn't been touched, so I think that would be a solid pick. Yeah,
certainly so. They'll pick up the Skywrath here for HEHE, so the Mystic Flare Cogs combo is obviously one that's pretty darn potent. Also, it'll offer them a bit of a slow, and the Ancient Seal, of course, which is very good against the IO from making defensive relocates, and of course versus the Invoker will mitigate most of his damage, but they'll pick up one of the strongest offlaners in the game for Moscow 5 here in the Tidehunter. You'll see how much the meta has changed in that a Tidehunter is able to slip through to that 5th pick.
For sure, it's going to angle their team towards more of these large-scale engagements rather than the pickoffs with the Centaur Bat that I was talking about earlier, but definitely fits the role. I'm pretty surprised as you are with the Tidehunter being left through to the 5th pick, but yeah, it is going to be a solid rounded lineup for Moscow 5.
Yeah, definitely so. Definitely well-rounded one. I worry a bit for the ability of the Skywrath to be involved in a lot of these engagements, as the Clock has a method to get in with the hook shot, the Haunt from the Spectre, of course the charge from the Spirit Breaker, and you can have assistance from the Zeus with the Thunder God's Wrath, but it seems like Skywrath is going to have to smoke and be present there before the gank is ready, so I do worry for his ability to join most of these engagements. But if he does, he has, of course, a really good toolkit at both burst and some disable in terms of the Ancient Seal there.
For sure. Right now, Moscow 5 have a lot of flexibility in where they can actually throw these lanes. A dual lane mid isn't out of the question. They could throw the Invoker towards the safe lane. they have a lot of different ways that they could shuffle this down. Honestly, I don't think there's very many poor ways to lane it, just because of HEHE's lineup. Their lanes aren't particularly very potent. I'm supposed to introduce all of our players since we do have a pause to start things off. I'll go ahead and take the HEHE lineup. It is going to be His playing on the Clockwork and HWA playing on the Zeus. As far as their stand-ins are concerned, we have Illusionist on the Spirit Breaker, Top on the Scarith Mage, and Sky on the Spectre.
Yep, and for the dire side, that's Moscow 5 International with their full squad. PGG picking up the Vengeful Spirit here. ZXC going to play on the Tiny. We've got Necroman on the Invoker. We've got Slander playing in the off lane on his signature Tidehunter. And yet to load in, having his Tusk banned out, we've got Screen playing on the IO.
Yeah, no big surprises there. Hopefully we'll be able to get through this pause as quick as possible, but as a general rule, I think that Moscow 5 International, their lineup is just a lot more stable and easy to execute. If they're able to get to level 6 on the IO and Tidehunter in particular, oh my goodness. Well, that's keep it classy.
For all of you under 13, please close your eyes on stream. Nicely played by HEHE there. He'll disconnect as well, in fitting fashion. So hopefully there'll be some flame back at him for that one. Either way, some
definitely deserves it.
Some nice effigies for Moscow 5. There's Screen's Tusk here, so even though he doesn't get to play it, he will be present in the game. But either way, Slander's got a Magnus. It's pretty cute. Something a little bit more standard, but either way.
Yeah, I don't know. I think they're pretty lacking as far as all of these effigies are concerned. There's 2 per team, and I don't know.
Yeah, step your effigy games up over here. Meeple's just chilling.
He's just scratching his back over there.
Yeah,
no inscription at all.
His key's just a little bit too heavy for him. Either way, we hope we can hop into this one fairly soon. Should be a really good matchup. I mean, I haven't seen too much of top as well as Sky, so it'll be interesting to see how they fit in with HEHE and his. But either way, Moscow 5 been looking very good recently for what I've been able to cast of them on quite a win streak, if I recall correctly. They've won at least 5 of their last 6, so it'll be interesting to see if they can carry forth the momentum through this one.
Yeah, right now, he really need to hammer out that mid game if they want to succeed. The hookshot games coming up from the Clockwork are going to be absolutely crucial. If they're able to roll off of that momentum, then they can fall back on a Spectre in the late game, but
yeah,
if that doesn't work out, their game plan is completely in shambles.
Yeah, they really do need to find their stride, as you mentioned. They do have somewhat of a timing window. Of course, as you mentioned, they have the Spectre in the late game, but up against a Tide Invoker Tiny Tricore, especially with the Wisp to buff up the Tiny, I'm not sure that Spectre can really hold a candle to that with the likes of a Zeus, Clockwork, and Spirit Breaker supporting him. So it'll be interesting to see if they're able to start to get things rolling throughout that 10 to 15 minute mark, and even throughout till the 25. So.
Yeah, as a general rule, you do kind of want to fall back on the late game of a Spectre, but up against a Tiny and IO combination, that's just so risky, because Spectre just doesn't have the potential to take your base and then relocate in the fight. She does have that global potential, so she can farm very effectively, but still, I don't know. Moscow 5 in, I think throughout all stages of the game, if this goes as planned, they should be in a very good situation.
Yeah, definitely so. I think one thing to note is the wave clear is a lot better for Moscow 5 here. So, I mean, they can find great engagements, but I do worry for their ability to push out lanes and take structures down. And in that sense, I would want HEHE to find an earlier timing window to start finding those pickoffs and therefore translate those into buildings one at a time. Whereas, I mean, if you have a Tiny IO, overcharged Tiny with an Aghanims upgrade, he's going to be able to clear a wave real quick and immediately translate that into structural damage. So yeah, definitely a timing window here for HEHE.
For sure. Right now we do have everybody loaded in the game, Necromancer connected, and we have Screen on his Wisp. So it looks like we're actually going to see how these lanes shake down for both teams.
Yeah, I guess you would expect a safe lane Invoker for Necroman here. ZXC probably go towards the mid lane with Screen, but will be interesting to see if Slander's solo in the off lane, or perhaps they run him in the safe lane, but generally would expect that dual lane mid.
For sure. Well, I'm not exactly sure what's the holdup, since everybody has reconnected and, well, looks like we're all good to go. Okay, there we go. We are unpausing.
Yeah, it'll be very interesting to see how he ends up laning this. It looks like the Spectre is currently going towards the off lane. Not sure if they're willing to run an aggro try here. They will be a little bit melee heavy with the Spirit Breaker in the support role, so it could be a little bit perilous for him. He's pinging out the side shop as it stands and does have a ward as well as a couple of pooled tangos in tow, so perhaps we see an offlane Spectre here. Very, very weird. Maybe he goes towards that mid lane though, against the dual lane of the Tiny IO.
Honestly, no matter where the Spectre goes, the farm isn't going to come easily for Sky, and I think the top lane might just be one of the best places if they give the Spectre some support. I'm not exactly sure where that's going to come from. It looks like for now it's just going to be solo.
Someone needs to tell HEHE that there's 1,300 people watching him on HeflaTV right now. Either way, 4-man movement towards the bottom rune from HEHE. And they may scout out Slander here if they walk uphill, but he's postured up pretty defensively behind the tree, should be just fine. May concede over that ever so coveted early bounty rune, but it looks like PGG and ZXC will secure a top lane one for themselves.
Yeah, right now, although there is some level 1 killing potential from both sides, doesn't look like there's going to be any contention for these runes, as Moscow 5 are going to secure the top one. Not exactly sure who they give this one to. I'm not sure it matters all that much. And then bottom lane should be secured for Illusionist.
Yeah, Screen's actually going to pick that up for his early bottle, so I definitely like that decision from Moscow 5. He's going to ferry that out right now, and that'll be giving them a lot of spammability and sustainability in this lane. So it will be Sky solo in the off lane for this Spectre, so very interesting. He's already daggered into the tree line looking to soak up some XP from this early wave, but he is going to be lacking farm on the Spectre.
Yeah, for the most part, this is just going to be full catch-up mode for Spectre throughout the entire game. At the very least, you do secure yourself some levels, but yeah, it's not the most conventional way to play the hero, and honestly, Sky's not going to be doing anything for 30 minutes or so.
Now he's going to get a little bit of mana burn out onto ZXC in the mid lane as well as the Wisp, but Necroman farming freely, and it looks like Slander is postured up a little bit forward in lane, not too worried about the harass from the Skyrat, but he will have to eat into his tangos here, and he's going to back off for the time being. Mid lane, Avalanche goes out onto his. He's going to take a couple spirits to the face as well, but he will be just fine with that base HP pool. Pretty large for the Clockwork.
Illusionist currently deep behind enemy lines, potentially looking for a courier snipe, but with the bottle already ferried out to the Wisp, honestly not exactly sure how much the Spirit Breaker is going to be able to accomplish by sitting over at the enemy secret shop.
Yeah, with the bottle already out there, maybe he takes and denies the boots from ZXC, but with that tether move speed, he'll be okay for the next little while until that courier respawns. So he is committing quite a bit. Another mana burn goes out mid lane onto ZXC. Spectre, it looks like there's some circling on the map from PGG, so perhaps they're a little bit wary of his positioning here, and Illusionist not going to find the courier. It's going to be able to get the boots out to ZXC, and so he wastes quite a bit of time thus far, sitting at level 1.5 right now.
As far as supports that can spot out where the Spectre is, Vengeful Spirit is one of the better ones, but PGG, at least for now, is just going to leave Sky where she is. Guesses wrong as she looks towards the north.
Niz doing pretty good in the mid lane. 5 and 2 is his CS, up against the 4 and 3 of the Tiny, in fact. So doing very well up against the dual lane with those cogs, and he'll throw out a rocket flare just to get some last hits going here. Illusionist gonna rotate back down to the bottom lane once again. There may be an engagement in the river though. Sky is caught out, tether back towards PGG. That'll give him the move speed to get the magic missile off. There's a cold snap as well from Necroman. Some body blocks coming out from screen. Few more right clicks. Spectre is down, and that's the first blood going the way of Moscow 5.
As if the Spectre's early game couldn't get any worse. Only level 2 after soaking some experience over the side and giving up first blood. Really, Sky isn't going to be able to do very much at all this game. There's not any places where she can look for ganks. In mid, cogs are going to be thrown out, toss into the IO. They have a charge coming in from the Spirit Breaker onto ZXC as they look for the IO wisp damage onto his. Charge into ZXC is not going to do enough because of the heals coming out from the IO.
Yep, and his going to salve up. He'll be just fine to stay in lane for the time being. Slander's almost found his level 2 in the bot lane, so he will be able to anchor smash up, but it's not going to help him much versus the Arcane Bolt and Arc Lightning spam. So Sky going to put a little bit of Desolate damage into PGG here. He's actually doing quite a bit, but PGG looking to man up and dare him to stay in lane as his support rotates in the form of Necroman. Looks like Necroman's opting for the Quaz Wex build. What are your thoughts on that?
Quaz Wex is completely acceptable. They have plenty of damage. throughout all of their heroes, and having the Orchid to snipe off some of these heroes could be really useful for them. So I think it's definitely warranted, although I think Exhort this game might have been a little bit better.
Yeah, I generally favor Exhort a slight bit just in general, but I mean, in the global strat, Sunstrike is really nice to have. Either way, that Cold Snap certainly did help him. So the early level in Invoke definitely helped him in the river, but could have gone that with Exhort either way. Slander is going to look to find this 4-minute rune in bottom. He may run into top in the Skywrath Mage, who can deny that up, and he's going to think better of it and rotate back into lane, or perhaps he just disconnected.
Yeah, if at the very least he does get 1 point to Exhort, giving that alacrity towards the Tiny could be pretty crucial. That extra attack speed works wonders for ZXC, especially when you're going for the towers. There's a lot of ways to buff up his damage, so I think it's completely fine.
Yeah,
Spiritbreaker still has been spending most of his game on the enemy side of the map looking for charge angles, but Illusionist, up until this point, just really hasn't done anything.
Yeah, I'm surprised he's even found his level 2. He's pretty much on par with Slander. Slander almost actually amassed the level 3 here, so that's nice for him. Sky is sitting on level 4, so he has been able to leech the XP, but dying once, as well as not finding any CS, really. He has 3 last hits up until this point, but Illusionist goes in bottom onto Slander. They're going to find him out, and they will get him underneath the tower. Just caught the tail end of that. TPs are in.
ZXC in the mid lane, going to be trading very heavily with Nihiz. Both heroes going to survive. The Wisp Orb's not going to be enough damage, and it's the Spirit Breaker to die to the Venge.
Yeah, PGG with a nice rotation in. He'll find a solo kill there, so that's quite a little bit of a bounty going his way. 160 experience, 300-ish gold, and he will rotate into the pit for the time being just to fog out top. But it looks like Slander going to be able to come back into lane, find his level 3 now. But Sky looking pretty good, 4.5 levels, even though he has no farm. He has picked up his boots now, so will be a little bit more survivable in this off lane, but really does need the farm, so I do worry for his ability to translate or transition towards the late game. Treads now picked up for ZXC.
At the very least, Taunt's going to give them another way to catch vision of targets, especially useful for the Spirit Breakers, so you can ensure that you get charges wherever you want to go, on top of the Zeus ultimate that they already have at their disposal. So I suppose it's not the end of the world, even if Spectre doesn't get farm early. There's still plenty of time in this game for Sky to pick up some, but as far as heroes that I'd rather have under-farmed, I'd rather have the Tidehunter. At least he's going to be offering the Ravage. Yeah,
definitely so. Necroman going to rotate over towards the mid. Him and Zeus laning equivalents are pretty much both free farming. 33 and 12 on the Zeus to the 30 and 14 of Necroman. Necroman's picked up a Bassi and Phase Boost. Thundergod's Wrath going to go out. It's actually going to catch the IO top lane. ZXC next to fall. And Sky gets really low off the toss, but will make it away. Empowering Haste going to sound his retreat there. A very nice 2-for-0 in the top lane, going the way of HEHE.
A huge win for them, giving them a truckload experience for all of the heroes involved, and particularly useful for the Spectre as she's able to survive. Sky's also going to be well on his way towards that level 6 mark for the Spec. There is an Invis Rune, the Clockwork in mid. With Hookshot at the ready, this could open up some killing potential if Necroman gets a little too far away from the creeps. Yeah,
we'll see if Illusionist opts to charge here and assist him. But it looks like he will just run down the river for the time being. Actually going to look to find some farm in that off lane, which he will find unabated at this point. No one in the lane currently. ZXC and Screen rotating over for the time being. But it looks like Nihiz will think better of it, and Necroman will find this bounty rune bottom. He's got 1,000 gold in tow, and we'll be looking to perhaps build into that Orchid just on and off in the general build here. Rocket Flare is going to scout him out briefly in the bottom lane as he rotates back up towards the mid.
Yeah, for now, outside of isolated kills, it is going to be that Orchid, by the way, on the Invokers. He picks up 2 Robes of the Magi. He's going to stow it with an EMP as well as Cold Snap onto the mid, draining his entirely of mana, but can't actually get that kill with the charge coming in and full forces of the Radiant team. Necroman in a huge amount of trouble. They have a sentry onto the ground, giving them vision of Necroman as well as Dust, and they will be able to clean him up with one more Desolate hit, chasing over onto the sidelines. PGG eats 1 Arcane Bolt, a couple of Chain Lightning. The ultimate for Zeus is going to be held, at least for now. It wouldn't be lethal just yet. They need a little bit more damage on top of it. Gives them the vision for the charge, and that's going to secure the kill on the bench.
Very well played by HEHE, holding that until the cooldown came off for the Charge of Darkness, and they finish off PGG as well. So good, very good discipline from them. They had the sentries. They also had Dust on their Spectre. Not sure how often you see a Spectre carrying Dust of Appearance, at least this early, before having Haunt, but he does find Haunt now. That level 6 has been picked up by them. Level 4 on Illusionist as well, so he's working towards that, and 5 on their Skywrath Mage. So looking at the hero levels overall, looking very good for HEHE.
For sure. They'd really like to have Illusionist to get that Excuse me, Nether Strike on the Spirit Breaker, but even without it can still do quite a bit. Down in bottom, Cogs onto 2 with the Haunt in. They might be able to get enough damage. The Zeus is collateral damage from the Vengeful Spirit and the Invoker, but they'll still be able to chase down Necroman with the Battery Assault ticking and the Desolate damage.
Yeah, Zeus was the highest priority target, currently sitting at level 8, was almost at the top of the net worth as well, but Necroman definitely the highest value for Moscow 5, so not worth feeding him over. Unfortunately for PGG, he threw out that magic missile on top of the last right click that would have finished off the Zeus anyways from Necroman, so they weren't able to drop that in the cogs and buy themselves some time, but either way with the Battery Assault channeling, they probably would have both fell there regardless.
For sure. In the meantime, mid lane is being defended out by the Radiant team. They'll put a little bit of pressure there. The Titan are still catching up towards his level 6, but he's going to have that shortly. Ravage really needs to be important for Moscow 5 International, and for now, they are on the back foot. HEHE, this global ganking presence, really has worked wonders for them.
Yeah, definitely making it to use thus far. Tornado's gonna hit on 2 mid, but the charge is coming out from Illusionist. He'll drop PGG as he on the way through. He'll drop a sentry down. There's the Thunder God's Wrath, and Illusionist is going to put some right click into PGG, but things going to stagnate for the moment. Necroman outside the sentry range. They're going to cog in PGG, though. He'll get a magic missile off before dying. And Necroman going to come in with the cold snap, but there's a lightning bolt and the arc lightning from Zeus. They'll bring down the Invoker. Ancient Seal out onto ZXC. Avalanche will finish off the Clockwork. Toss up into the air. Negative Urn charge is there, though, and they'll bring him down with one more right click. Illusionist will be able to scurry away, as will Hawa on the Zeus. And everything looking real good still. Trade it well in the favor of HEHE. 4 for 1 overall, if you include the early death on PGG.
It honestly doesn't get much better than that. The wraparound coming out for the Tiny as he TPs into the tier 1 when they're fighting behind the tier 2 is pretty disastrous for him, as he gets instantly silenced up by the Skywrath Mage and just can't finish off any of the targets. His full combo does end up killing off the Clockwork, but still, Moscow 5 International were hoping to take a much better fight. If they had the Titan to Ravage available for that, maybe it could have gone a lot better. In the meantime, toss down towards bottom, going to crater the Forest Spectre as she's obliterated.
Yep, nice relocate gang. So the first one for ZXC and Screen will be successful along with their companion in Necroman's Invoker. Looks like they'll TP a few bottom here. Screen will TP back on the Wisp as he relocated out. And maybe they amass for a push here looking to ball up versus HEHE. But their Mystic Flare is at the ready. Cold Snap though. Avalanche, one toss. There goes the Skywrath Mage. Nice mana burn on 2 from the Hiz. But he'll be blocked out by the Tidehunter. Tornado EMP. Will it land on him? It will not. But it does land on Illusionist. They will hit an Avalanche. And the toss there. Hook shot onto 4, but they'll bring down the Clockwork. Thunder God's Wrath doing a lot of work. Screen dropping low, but he'll be able to bottle up. And no casualties thus far for Moscow 5. No rotations in from the Zeus. And Illusionist very low on mana. Isn't able to do much. PGG's going to swap him back, however. There's the Magic Missile and the Gush as well. Toss forward from the Tiny. One last right click. PGG finishes off Illusionist. 3 for 0 in the bot lane for Moscow 5. And they'll look to take the tower off the back of that engagement.
At least Spectre's farming in the meantime for HEHE, but still not going to make up for a disastrous fight down towards bottom that Moscow 5 International didn't even need to use Ravage for. The Ravage animation was cancelled. In the meantime, mid EMP combination is going to miss onto the Zeus, which means he's going to be just fine to throw a Thunderbolt the enemy way. Down towards bottom, silence onto Slander, and a charge Mystic Flare going to crater him down. With that Flare at max level, and his is going to secure the last hit.
Yeah, well played, certainly, to find a return kill there. Spectre did die early in that engagement, but as you mentioned, is finding some farm top. Has picked up the Bracer, presumably on the way to Drums, if not just a casual Bracer to keep her tanky for now. But Phase, Poor Man's Shield, Bracer, full Magic Wand. Not bad for 12 minutes in, considering how abysmal the start was for this Spectre for Sky. But Illusionist has found his level 6 now, so he will be able to use that Nether Strike for a little bit of extra lockdown there. Perhaps they look to aggress onto Necroman, who's postured up fairly defensively mid. He's going to look for this deny here. Relocate into the river, however. They're going to be a little bit short of top, and they're going to use the Avalanche Toss combo on some illusions. Top's going to be able to rotate out. Relocate is going to be right in front of him, though. And the Gush is going to go out. A couple of right clicks. There's a toss. They'll finish off the Skywrath Mage. Swap down to the low ground onto Nahiz, but just a bit of miscommunication there. Necroman's going to find him, though, in the cogs. EMP will land. Charge comes through, but there's the Avalanche Toss. And actually, he gets stunned in the air by the Spirit Breaker. Ravage will hit on one. Illusionist is going to drop low. Screen is attacking from the high ground. Haunt going to come out from Sky. Screen will be able to tether down, though. And he's dropping really low on the Wisp, but he will be able to make it out. Sky's chasing him down with the Spectral Dagger, and they will finish off the Wisp. Meantime, though, Zeus does die. ZXC will be able to TP out unscathed, And Rocket Flare gonna look to find someone on the way out. Will not be able to hit PGG. But Slender will make it out as well. So still a small win for Moscow 5, it seems.
I would say that's a pretty big win, especially considering it cost them a buyback on the Clockwork on top of all of that. It works really well for them. And Tiny also ends the dominating spree of the Zeus and gets quite a large sum of gold
Hook
on
shot.
top of all of that.
And they're going to find Necroman into the Cogs. He'll be able to Ghost Walk, but the Mystic Flare is going to drop on him. One of the Cogs, though, attacked down by his, but he will be finished off with the Sentry Ward there. Last Arcane Bolt and a right click. And that's a big kill going the way of HEHE. But yeah, as you mentioned, I wasn't aware of that buyback there from Clockwork. That's very costly. He's only got 2 Bracers, Magic Wand, and the boots. So he will be far off something like a Blade Mail or an Aghanims, and that's going to cost him dearly. Whereas ZXC already has the point booster in tow with his treads and 1,300 gold. So he is only 1,700 off of that full Aghanims, and it looks like it will be an Aghanims rush from him.
Sky is going to opt to complete up all of the drums, but in the meantime we have a charge going up towards top, potentially, if they actually connect onto this gank. ZXC has been tagged by that one, relocating away. However, they find themselves a Spectre inside the jungle. The charge is going to make a 180 turn as they try to finish off Sky. Avalanche Toss is going to connect, and that's going to crater him down. The Spirit Breaker hasn't canceled this just yet. He's going to go full hog into ZXC, trying to finish off Scream, but relocate away is going to keep him safe. Illusionist now going to get Magic Missile. The IO on the other end, as well as the Tiny, have been cratered by the Zeus. He's able to nuke them down with a handful of Thunderbolts and the Thunder God's Wrath.
Yeah, not expecting their welcoming gift as they return to the top lane there were the Tiny and the IO, just trying to get away from Illusionist. He brings back ZXC, unfortunately, and probably if he left the Tiny there, the Venge and the Tiny may have been able to finish off Illusionist, although the charge may have still been off of cooldown in due time for him to get away. Either way, they will drop 2 there in the top lane, and it looks like they will put some harass into this tower, but with a Zeus, they really won't be able to finish it anytime soon. Haunt going to be used here. We'll see where Sky opts to go. Hook shot. They're going to haunt right in onto PGG as well. A few right clicks and the battery assault swap. Not going to save you there. And very nice, well-orchestrated gank coming out from HEHE. Rocket Flare going to scout out mid. Not going to find anyone for the time being. And perhaps they look to take down this tier 1 for their second tower of the game for HEHE.
Yeah. TP towards the tier 1 and from the Tidehunter, and they also have the Invoker in reserve. Right now it doesn't look like HEHE really have what it takes to take a fight there in full force, but the Spectre really has been very active after the early stages. It's caught up admirably with the phase drums and just making sure that she's involved in all of these fights instead of just passively farming. Sky will be able to pick up a full item. Oh, Nether Strike onto the Tidehunter going to be cancelled. They probably will be able to bring down Lucius and do so very easily. Tornado flies through and doesn't clip onto anyone.
Avalanche just a moment late to find Sky there. Not sure exactly what happened with Illusionist. It looks like he canceled the charge, but he may have been cold snapped up just before it hit. And then he casted the Nether Strike, and I believe the cold snap came after the Nether Strike cast, so I feel like it was a small misplay from him canceling that charge. And he did fall under the tower, so just a free kill fed over to Moscow 5 there. Maybe look to translate this into a tower push with Ravage at the ready, but Slander has opted for the mech build for his team, so he's not going to have a blink for a very long time.
Yeah, honestly, I'm not exactly sure if I'm completely on board with this, but he hasn't really been able to farm up very many stacks. Still, hookshot, they have found the Venge inside the river with the charge follow-up. I'm not even sure if that's entirely necessary, and HEHE should be able to secure this one, especially with the Thunder God's Wrath flying through.
Yep, definitely so. Bottom lane, Mystic Flare, Ancient Seal out onto ZXC, but the overcharge will keep him up for the time being with that tether healing. Rocket Flare going to come in, do a little bit of damage, but nothing really to write home about. And Illusionist will back off for the moment. Looks like the 3 of ZXC, Screen, and Necroman will back off as well. There's a smoke in the stash of Necroman, but nothing on them at the time being. Rocket Flare, top lane, Veil goes out onto Slander as well, but not going to commit is Hua on the Zeus. Slander a little bit too tanky to bring down, despite the Veil of Discord being at the ready. So the level 11's found on Necroman here, so he's getting ever the more potent, but it looks like he is being aggressed on. Bottom lane charge is coming through. Spectral Dagger is there as well. He'll get a Tornado on too, but he's going to get Ancient Sealed up. He won't be able to Ghost Walk away from this one, and one more right click going to bring him down. Relocate is coming in. There's the swap from PGG. The Cogs will be there for the time being. Avalanche going to land on the his, but one of the more tanky targets, he'll catch a Magic Missile as well, and he will go down. A lot of nuke damage coming through though. Illusionist going to charge through PGG, relocate away from Screen. lane. Nether Strike gonna finish off the Vengeful Spirit. Lightning Bolt gonna drop ZXC really low. He's in the tree line. Blink forward from the Zeus. One last right click will finish off the Tiny. Beautiful body blocking from HEHE. But the Ravage is gonna connect on 4. One more Anchor Smash. No, just the right click. He'll bring down top there, but no follow-up on that Ravage. He'll only be able to bring down the Skywrath. 4 for 2, going the way of HEHE United when all is said and done, and only the Wisp surviving for screen.
For sure, right now, Moscow 5 International take a really sketchy engagement, especially the Tidehunter. He held onto that Ravage multiple times, canceling that animation, and in the end, all it nets him is a single support kill. It's going to be 2-4, the final number trade, and he just find a really good fight, killing off the Invoker, already starting things off 4v5. I don't think Moscow 5 should have really relocated into that. They just finished up the Aghanim Scepter on the Tiny, and honestly, I think farming up some stacks or just playing things a little bit more passively could have worked better for them. Smoke on the Spirit Breaker as well as a charge is going to end up canceling that, however.
Yeah, he was getting a little bit too deep behind enemy lines to continue there, but either way, there will be PGG in a little bit of a precarious position. He'll be hooked here. Cogs in as well. Jump in. There's a Veil. Thunder God's Wrath will finish him off. It'll drop screen very low too. He's being charged on by Illusionist. One more right click. Negative earn charges there as well. They'll bring one down in the mid lane too. That'll be Necroman's Invoker. Nether Strike hits onto ZXC as he tries to retreat here. There's an Arc Lightning as well, but it looks like he'll be able to make it away. Hookshot is not ready here for Nehiz, but 3-0. Once again, going the way of HEHE. You really don't expect them to have this much synergy with 3 stand-ins in the lineup, but they're executing things absolutely flawlessly.
Yeah, they really are, just knowing exactly where their heroes need to be and what they can accomplish. They leave the Invoker to be soloed up by top as they chase for more, and their mid-game execution really has been on point, and as it really needs to be. The Spectre is almost caught up exactly to where the Tiny is. Sky's going to be going for a Diffusal Blade, and although it's usually not my favorite item on a Spectre, the aggressive style of play is really going to match up with the item's strengths.
Yeah, it does allow her to fight early. Also gives her a little bit of the chase ability with the Diffusal Blade, so not bad as well with that Purge, and definitely something that you could see being effective here. It's absolutely incredible how she's been able to catch up with the top net worth target on Moscow 5. Just shows you how well. Taking a look at the metrics thus far, 7,500 net worth lead generated, 10,000 experience lead generated by HEHE.
Yeah. Even larger is the advantage that HWA has been able to net himself on this Zeus with the Veil and the Blink. He's been doing a whole lot of work inside all of these fights. The HP pools on Moscow 5 International aren't particularly the greatest. Tiny, even him is falling, or even he is falling very low. They are going to get a gush onto the Skywrath Mage, trying to focus down with the Cold Snap. Cold Snap is going to bring the end of Skywrath Mage. They bring in the Spectre, however, the Zeus ultimate, the damage is immense. They'll bring down the Io. That might be a full 5-man wipe. Indeed, it will be. As HEHE just completely obliterate the team of Moscow 5 International and bottom.
Yeah, absolutely eviscerated the whole lineup, almost simultaneously brought down as well. That Zeus doing so much damage with the Veil. He's also got a point booster in the stash and 1,600 gold, so 1,400 away from a full Aghanims at this point. He's doing absolutely incredibly. 10k net worth. Sky's going to TP towards the mid lane and find quite a bit of farm as they finish off this tier 2 bottom. Only 2 buybacks available from Moscow 5, but they definitely won't use them here. No sense in defending this tier 2 with only a couple. And things looking really good here at the 20-minute mark for HEHE. They certainly hit that stride that we were speaking about early on in the game.
Yeah, they really are. I didn't expect them to hit it this hard as well. Just the raw damage from the Zeus. He pretty much 1v5'd the enemy team, the Spectre Haunt on top of it all. The entire 5-man lineup of Moscow 5 died just in a matter of seconds, which is incredible, and there's not really much that they can do about that. Although a BKB would, in theory, be really nice for them to pick up, Tiny's probably the only one that's going to think about getting that one soon, and that's also quite a ways away with just the Ogre Club finished.
Yeah, certainly so. I do kind of question the mech pickup here from Slender. It seems like he's had to just kind of run headlong into these engagements, and he leaves himself really susceptible to all this magic burst from the Skywrath and the Zeus, with the Veil and the Ancient Seal buffing that up. He's been dropped fairly quickly, hasn't been able to hit any significant ravages except one in the jungle when the rest of his team was already dead. And so I do really, I don't know, kind of question his ability to counter initiate without that blink, and it really have seen some good kiting happening from HEHE on the Tidehunter.
Another big issue for them is that Necroman just hasn't been able to find any farm. Currently only sitting on one Oblivion Staff and the Robe of the Magi on top of it. cogs in mid aren't really going to accomplish much of anything. But yeah, Necroman just hasn't been holding his weight. 3, 8, and 7. He's been involved in several kills, but just hasn't been able to hit his stride. Really, this is when a Quasbox Invoker wants to be fighting, wants to be controlling the game, but he just can't do it.
Yeah, good diligence as well from HEHE, keeping the dust on them the couple of times that he may have made it away with the Ghost Walk. They punish him for it, and yeah, like as you mentioned, hasn't been able to find any farm or item progression, and therefore really fallen off in terms of relevance right now. I mean, he's being amassed upon on the net worth chart by this Skywrath Mage for top, so who already has Arcanes and Force and is only 100 net worth below your position 1 safe lane Invoker, so it's definitely something scary for Moscow 5.
Yeah, right now there just isn't much left for Moscow 5 to fall back on except for this IO Tiny combination, and they just need more time, and I'm not sure they're going to be able to buy it with the rest of their heroes. They're forced to give away a tier 2 tower up towards top. The tier 2 tower down in bottom has already fallen, and there just isn't a lot of potential for them to take these engagements on their own terms, especially without a blinking tide.
Yep, toss mid lane will be able to take down the tower for Tiny, but it looks like he's going to be aggressed upon and flanked from behind. Mystic Flare is going to go out. Hookshot is not going to land, it seems. PGG is going to get aggressed upon, though, and he will be brought down here. It looks like the Tiny able to make it out. ZXC porting back in towards the mid lane, but it'll be too little too late at this point. Screen is going to relocate back, but Ancient sealed up. Arcane Bolt will not be able to finish him off as he bottles up. Illusionist dropping fairly low. The mech is there for Moscow 5. They may finally look to take a good engagement here. Illusionist gonna find a regen rune, but the Tornado will bring him up and finish him off. So really only a 1-for-1 thus far. And his no hook shot available for another 20 seconds. Won't be able to re-engage here. So Vengeful Spirit for a Spirit Breaker. It's a win for Moscow 5 in the sense that any even trade is a good trade for them.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best that Moscow 5 can hope for. And if you take a look, especially at the experience gain, that last fight, with just that one kill, they get themselves 1600 experience, which is much needed.
Yeah, I mean, it's unfortunate for them. They've had to use a lot of these relocates in a defensive manner in terms of counter-initiating, because really HEHE has been setting the pace and the tempo for this one with their global strat. So how do you beat a Tiny IO? I guess you out-global them. I mean, you look at the Dire Vision. They've got 4 very nice wards for some information against the Spirit Breaker, Spectre, Zeus combo, but they just really haven't been able to anticipate it much. Good movement from HEHE has spelled a lot of good engagements for them.
Necroman currently spotting out HWA over inside the woods. They have to relocate. They probably need to bring it down if they want to bring down HWA. HWA just not dropping fast enough. The toss over from the IO. They look for an avalanche, but Necroman's dropping a little too low. They will be able to get HWA, but not before he brings down the Invoker in turn. Charge hasn't been canceled. Going to stun up ZXE as well as Scream, but the relocate out is going to keep them both very safe.
Yep, TP away as well from PGG. He'll make it back to base, but 4v1 when you lose your 1 position Invoker, certainly not the best trade for Moscow 5, although Zeus will be down for twice as long and is pretty much twice as worthy or valuable as this Invoker, so I guess they'll take a small win once again. Even trades go their way. Illusionist, though, hookshot into the mid lane. Illusionist charging top. Slander has been hooked upon. There's no haunt in from the Spectre, though. Battery Assault is there. He'll mech up, though. Slander going to be able to get swapped out from PGG. Magic Missile into the face of Nahiz. TPs are in as well here from Necroman. He'll cold snap up the Clockwork, and Nahiz going to pay for his insolence here. And he will go down. It looks like they did survive top lane. Not sure who they aggress upon there, but either way, it looks like a good trade across the map for Moscow 5.
They were looking for the Tiny, but unfortunately Sky got stuck inside the trees as the Spectral Dagger wore off, so they weren't able to go for anything further. Finally, we see the Orchid completed up by the Invoker. That Zeus kill that they got previously is really huge for them, and 5 are showing some signs of life. They need to keep this one up. With the way that they're building these heroes and the way that they're playing in general, really want to be looking to close this game out shortly, but they still have that trump card of the Spectre to fall back on, so not all is bad if they don't.
Yeah, definitely something to know. ZXC has a 9-second BKB ready at this point, as well as 1100 gold. He's had his Aghanim's for quite a while now, so is getting a little bit scarier, is able to accelerate his farm with the cleave there, but we will see a smoke rotation from almost the full lineup, minus the Clockwork of HEHE, and we'll see if they run into ZXC, the highest priority target here. They will. Ancient sealed up, Veil, Lightning Bolt, Mystic Flare, not even needed with the Thunder God's Wrath. Easy pick off for HEHE, and exactly the target they wanted to find.
That is the tankiest target on the side of Moscow 5 International, taken down in a matter of 3 spells cast by HWA, they really need nothing further. They'll pursue screen, and my goodness, the damage coming out from HEHE is quite honestly insane. That's the full IO Tiny combination taken out.
Yeah, instant Diffusal Blade Purge there from Sky will slow down screen, and he wasn't able to get in range of PGG for the tether with the Ancient Seal dropped as well. So fortunately for him, he drops real quickly, and things really starting to snowball out of control here. HEHE, though, still unable to break base, as that is one of the weaknesses of their lineup. And so they do have a fairly good turtle lineup with the Quasfest Invoker, with the Ravage, as well as the Tiny there. So definitely something to be wary of if you are HEHE, and they are playing it fairly safe thus far.
Yeah, for now, there really isn't a reason that they shouldn't go for this tier 2 tower in mid. However, they should be able to get this without much contention coming out from Moscow 5 in. However, the IO relocate is going to be available fairly soon, and for now, they're going to back off. Kaz going to bounce back ZXC immediately, and Veil onto 3 means that they really can't fight. That's 1 Thunderbolt and a Chain Lightning thrown out, a 3rd Thunderbolt. Yeah, there just really isn't anything they can do about that. The mech has already been used.
Yep, now his doesn't look like he's postured up for an immediate hook shot at the moment, but you saw how much damage just the 1 lightning bolt did to 3 heroes on top of the Veil there, and certainly something to be worried about for Moscow 5. And Slander, still no BKB on him. He's building into a pipe, it seems, with the Hood of Defiance, and they will walk up to the high ground, swap back onto his, relocate right into the cogs though, and Screen is gonna get hooked for his troubles. He'll be brought down with the Stifling Dagger. The Ravage is going to land on a couple, but the Thunder God's Wrath finishing another off. Necroman is ghost walked up. He's not going to find much. He's actually going to get spotted out with the Diffusal Blade here. Blink forward from Hua. He'll finish him off as well. 4-0, going the way of HEHE, as they were able to chase down the Wisp as well as PGG. Necroman falls there, and Slander, once again, having to run right into the full lineup of them to find even any significant Ravage, and just not enough follow-up, as his team was already too dispersed.
Right now, he here just walking all over the enemy team with a charge onto ZXC down towards bottom. Immediate TP out. Will it even save him? It looks like it will. Charge continues to go. They aren't going to pursue that any further, but a Roshan should be pretty easily taken by HEHE, even though they don't have the greatest of Rosh lineups.
Yeah, take a look at the metrics at this point. 14,000 net worth lead, 15,000 experience lead for HEHE, and the Zeus does have his full Aghanims up at this point, so pretty darn good looking for him. The Spectre has also recovered fairly nicely. Diffusal full Manta, as well as the Diffusal drums at this point, and has overtaken the Tiny. So I mean, for the start Sky had, and for the lane they gave her, to be overtaking this Tiny with complete mid farm for Moscow 5 is definitely something, not a position you want to be in for Moscow 5.
Yeah, 8-3 and 17. Sky's been doing an admirable job on this Spectre, and it's really an interesting way to play the hero, all things considered. Still, HEHE, they do have the task ahead of them to actually break the high ground, but when they have all of their ultimates up, it really is unlikely that Moscow 5 are actually going to be able to fight into that. If they catch the Veil, the Zeus Thunder God's Wrath on top of them all, the Spectre can just clean house.
Definitely so. I mean, they do have the Orchid now, so Moscow 5 has the potential if they do find the jump, but once again, no blink on this Tidehunter is really going to hinder their ability to find a good initiation. Necroman going to have to find something. Is there a gem on the side of the Radiant? There is not currently, but they have been pretty diligent with their sentries and dust, so I mean, Necroman's going to have to get lucky and flank someone, perhaps Orchid up that Zeus, and they'll be able to finish him off fairly quickly. That is a lot of the source of damage, but charge towards the bottom lane here onto the Screen Wisp, and they will actually TP back to base, so they will be just fine for the time being.
Yeah, the Roshan still hasn't been taken by either side. TP away from Slander is going to keep him safe, but HEHE are just constricting Moscow 5 International. The furthest they're able to push out is with the Io and Tiny, and when they do so, their other 2 lanes are very close to their tier 3s. Roshan is going to be attempted. With the Vladimir's on Illusionist, it can be done, although this is going to be a very slow Roshan, especially for 32 minutes if they want to continue it.
Visibility.
And Vizrune is onto Hua. He'll be able to do a little bit of scouting. Cogs on the high ground there just to zone things out for the time being. Doesn't look like they're willing to finish Roche though for now. Rocket Flare gonna scout things out. Not gonna find much on the high ground. Either way, Refresher is being built into and is not too far is Hua. He's only about 1,700 gold from that recipe on top of the Perseverance. So he's going to be ever the more dangerous. 15,000 net worth, 32 minutes in, well ahead of anyone else on the map.
Yeah, right now HWA, they have a hook shot. They're going to go onto the Tidehunter on the sidelines as they blow up the Invoker with a handful of Thunderbolts. Ultimate coming in from the Spectre as well. She has a reality. Instead, she goes towards top, killing off the Vengeful Spirit, and they mop up the Tidehunter to boot. Ultimate spent, 3 kills going away of HEHE for absolutely nothing in return.
Yep, now they can finally translate this into a push, so even if you don't have too much push, if there are 3 enemy heroes dead, you can definitely look to mount some structural damage here, and they will be able to take probably a full lane of racks with relative ease here. Ancient Seal concussive shot, there's a jump forward with the Lightning Bolt, and Veil Ancient Seal, 1 Lightning Bolt does pretty much 2/3 of this HP pool of the Tiny. Looks absolutely real scary. He's building into an AC of his own here. Pipe is a little bit late to come out for Slander, and therefore they will be able to bring down this lane of racks with relative ease as the remainder of the lineup for Moscow 5 respawns. This is getting probably towards GG territory, though.
It really is. And there you go. Screen's going to call it. It's a very anticlimactic GG, but still, it's not without warrant. Moscow 5 International, we're just getting walked all over. With a refresher on Zeus in the next fight, it would have been an absurd amount of damage.
Yeah, absolutely. So well played to HEHE Game 1 to make a lineup which really was not something with too much ease of execution work out, and some good synergy, some really good movement from them, and very nice engagements. They took pretty much all good engagements throughout the game, and therefore translating that into a Game 1 with sub 35 minutes. Well played by them. This is a best of 3, guys, in the SLTV season Pro Series Season 11 playoffs. We will be back shortly with Game 2. Any last thoughts, Grandis? Alrighty, we'll see you guys in a moment.